Hey, Mildo, I got your text. What's the emergency?
Are Babadooks ghosts?
What?
Like a Babadook. Is it a kind of ghost or isn't it? Is it a physical creature? What is it?
We're metaphors for grief and trauma, because in the movie, the titular Babadook is meant to be the unresolved guilt and shame that Amelia feels about the sudden death of her husband in a car accident and the ways it impacts her relationship with her son over here.
Yeah, that's what a Babadook represents, but what is it? Like literally in the text, is it something that physically exists? Is it a kind of psychic manifestation or a delusion? Is it a creature? Is it a spirit? What is it?
I don't think you meant to think about that part too literally, you know?
Yeah, no, I get that. I get that. It's ambiguous on purpose. You're supposed to be able to read it multiple ways. It's not a mistake or problem with the movie that what a Babadook isn't exactly clear. But is there like a magical realism element to the movie? Like if another person were in the room, would they see the Babadook? You can't get rid of it, once again, because it represents grief, which is something that always stays with you and you have to manage. And that's why at the end of the film, the Babadook lives in Amelia's basement, but it's no longer a threat to her, so that's fine. It's a happy ending. You can have a healthier relationship with trauma, so it's like a weirdly life-affirming kind of thing. But why does... But it eats worms. That's the part I don't get. They have a big pile of worms. They feed it to the Babadook. And like, what does that have to do with anything? That implies it is a physical creature. And given that Amelia and Samuel are in a much more positive mental state at the end, it would be weird if the Babadook were some kind of delusion, right? That's always been a weird, inscrutable detail to me. Like, why does it eat worms? Like, I guess worms eat dead bodies. So maybe they're like a symbol of the cycle of death and rebirth or something like that. The acceptance that death is a part of life and from death comes new life. I don't know. It's very specific and bizarre, and I find it difficult to believe it doesn't mean anything, but nobody seems to care. Nobody is as fixated on this as I am. What of the worms, Bobby?
Well, you know, I think it's just kind of a spooky thing for a monster to eat.
Yeah, but like if they wanted to do that, right? It could be raw meat, it could be blood. There's lots of spooky things you could feed a monster. But why is it something that specific? I mean, they're at a birthday party. They could just give the monster a slice of cake or something. That would seem to have some thematic relevance. But it really holds on the shot of the worms, and why worms? That's a little goosebumps, if I'm being honest with you. Especially for such a thoughtful movie, because there's not really much else that's silly in it. Aside from how the Babadook makes dinosaur noises with the same sound effect they literally used on Power Rangers. That part doesn't feel intentional, though. They definitely felt like they used a spooky roar from a sound effects library and just misjudged how that sounded. It is a serious, thinky brain movie. Everything about it is intentional and considered, so I almost feel like the movie is inviting me to interpret this point. The Babadook is often cited as either the immediate precursor to or the first of the so-called elevated horror genre. Bad name? We'll get to that. A divisive category of mature, artistic horror movies that seem to all come out at once in the mid-2010s, like Hereditary, The Vivitch, Get Out, It Follows, the Suspiria remake, those kind of movies, mostly A24 joints. They tend to lean hard on social commentary and or very broad, very obvious allegories for psychological issues which take precedence over the beat-by-beat plot of the movie, which is usually deliberately left ambiguous. They tend to have beautiful, often abstract visuals. They tend to be more slowly paced than most mainstream horror movies, often using violence very sparingly, but viscerally and shockingly when they do use it. They're often told from the exclusive point of view of a single protagonist, rather than focusing on a group of people or an antagonistic force, as is often the case in horror, but this is not a hard and fast rule. Elephant in the room, though. This is a bad name for this thing. You're literally putting these films above horror as though the genre is beneath it. Oh, this isn't merely some horror movie. This is a smart movie, and therefore could not be. And from this we can infer horror is dumb. It's for dummies and babies. And obviously I don't agree with that. It's more or less my philosophy that virtually all art is roughly equal in terms of elevation. Like, yeah, no shit, guys. If you take all the smart movies and call them something different, then the rest of them will be dumb movies, and that will make the genre look dumb. But the problem is, there isn't really a better name either, because some people call it art horror, which to me is far worse. Because it implies that beyond merely being bad art, all other horror movies aren't even art at all. which I don't love. Some people call it art house horror, which fits, I suppose, but feels a little more broad because I've heard the term art house horror used to refer to other types of experimental horror films, like Argento's movies in the 70s or French New Wave. Are we to believe that both Suspiria and Suspiria are the same type of movie? I don't think so. It's frustrating to me that the only conversation we seem to be capable of having about elevated horror is the elitist nature of the phrase itself. While it is very poorly named, I think it's fair to say that these movies do tend to share a certain vibe, to say the least. It is definitely a specific subgenre, and the seemingly out-of-nowhere emergence and popularization of it is something pretty interesting, something that we could discuss if it didn't have a bad name. Why is it, do you think, that at that particular time people were suddenly very hungry for weird experimental social commentary? I really can't think of another example of movie studios trying to cash in on a trend by making movies that were more and more sophisticated, rather than less. What's more, there's a bit of a dark side to the way that some horror fans complain about elevated horror. Since these movies tend to lean pretty hard on social commentary, they are often perceived as injecting politics into horror, intruding into a space that has historically catered to a very specific demographic, which is to say, white dudes who like to watch fake murders. This guy. It's not hard to see how some of the backlash to elevated horror is fueled by a sort of reactionary discomfort to the ideas being expressed within it. Ideas like, boy, there are some weird expectations for women, don't you think? They seem to be put in danger by systemic forces beyond their control more than you'd want to happen, which is never. Or maybe there's a bit of racism going on and we should look into it. And maybe the ways that white people think that they're helping are kind of making things worse and co-opting struggles that aren't theirs. Or also, whatever Suspiria is about, I don't know. Couldn't tell you. Love the movie? Have no idea what it's about. It's got that same kind of self-imposed victimization stink like Gates, both gamer and comics. So let me just say for the record, you cannot inject politics into horror. Politics is just how people relate to power. It's perfectly fine to not agree with the politics of a movie, but you can't make politics absent from a movie entirely. Whether you're trying to or not, a story will always kind of reflect the ways that people feel about things in real life, because that's what stories are supposed to do. Everything is political. Horror, particularly so. The things we are afraid of are qualities we project onto our political enemies. All cops are Jasons. It's not like we just figured out in the 2010s that you can make social commentary with horror movies. We've been doing that since the inception of the genre. We've been using horror to do political stories since before there were horror movies. Elevated horror is just more upfront about it. It's a little preachier, maybe. And this is where people start to throw around the word pretentious. Oh, they think they're so smart. They think they're better than you. They're putting on airs like fancy little lads, eating their figgy puddings. What's the matter, Einstein? Midnight Meat Train not academic enough for you? To me, that's a very weird charge to level at a subgenre whose primary characteristic is that it's always very, very obvious what the movies within it are trying to say. There is no pretense. They are as in your face with their messaging as they could possibly be without just stating it to you, and sometimes they will do that. The witch represents the paranoid impulse to imagine enemies all around us when we feel isolated. Wow. That says a lot about our current political climate if you think about it. Again, except Suspiria, because who the fuck knows? Love the movie, can't make heads or tails of it. I gotta rewatch Suspiria, I'm realizing. I think people just mean that these movies are smug or self-satisfied, and I don't agree. Again, with the exception of maybe Suspiria. That one I'll give you. That one is a little pleased with itself. But to be honest, if I take a long, hard look in that deep, dark mirror, I'm probably not the best person to judge whether something is smug, because I can be a bit of a smug dug myself. So perhaps smugness just appeals to me in some way that someone like you wouldn't understand. That being said, elevated horror has always seemed particularly authentic to me. Particularly invested in human fallibility, and grappling with the reality that we'll always kind of be stuck with our foibles, precisely the opposite of the self-congratulatory attitude it is often portrayed as having. Like the Babadook, you can manage your pain and grief, but you can never get rid of it. You can't undo the way that mental illness or generational trauma or institutional injustice or a very spooky dance academy affect you, but you can and often must change your relationship to those things. Put them in your basement, feed them worms, or you won't, and bad things will happen as a result. Why is it worms, though? Why is it specifically? It often asks us to empathize with characters who are caught in vicious cycles, like how in Hereditary, Annie can't break free from the cycle of abuse, mental illness, and trauma she was raised in. We're not expected to condemn her for that, but invited to consider how these maladaptive behaviors hurt her and hurt others, as well as the factors which prevent her from changing those aspects of her personality. Like in the case of that movie, demons. Horror can sometimes be a very cynical genre, naturally, right? Because cynicism is scary. Like, it's scary if you can't trust anyone, or if there's no underlying meaning to the suffering we go through. Elevated horror can be bleak, it can be tragic, but it's usually not cynical. The problems the characters face are manageable. Difficult to manage, perhaps, but manageable. When the characters fail to manage their problems, it's usually due to the failure of their support network, rather than deliberate malice or incompetence on their part. Seldomly do you look at the evil things in these movies and think, couldn't have been me. I'll never eat butter that a goat offers me. I'm never going to join a spooky dance academy. No way am I going to grapple with the responsibilities of being sexually active. It's more of a there before the grace of God go I kind of outlook, where people ending up in shitty circumstances almost never deserve it. They're always people we're invited to empathize with, to understand their motivations for making really, really bad choices. I love these movies. I love movies that were influenced by these movies, and it sucks how we don't get to discuss them because some dingus gave them a hoity-toity name. I'm not really in a position to give it a new name. I never made a movie. I don't know how you do that. I don't know how to make movies. What do? Do they use cameras? I don't know. But I'd like to humbly suggest social horror, and just end this pointless debate once and for all. Yes, it's a bad name, but it's still a real and valuable subgenre or movement or whatever, and it's going to keep having an influence for a long time to come, so it'd be best if we were able to talk about it. To this end, I ask you, what of the worms? What do the worms mean? Why worms? Maybe the worms are us. We're the worms. Just as we consume this media, so too are we consumed by it, eaten by the very Babadook we thought would entertain us. Art changes us, and we change art by experiencing it. You are what you eat, and what you are eats you. Whoa, that's deep, Mildo. Or maybe it's nothing, I don't know. Maybe you're talking nonsense. What kind of big brain horror movie you gonna discuss next week? Midnight Meat Train. Hey, thanks for watching, everybody. Been a while, huh? Listen, you like it when I make videos, don't you? Of course you do. Well, the thing is, I gotta be straight with you here. This channel has always been more of a hobby than my other YouTube channel that I forgot the name of. It has far fewer subscribers and makes far less money, even with the sponsorship deals that I reluctantly take. And that's fine, of course. But the thing is that I've been dealing with some problems IRL. Firstly, some kind of medical thing. Don't know what it is, but I'm tired all of the time. Don't know why. Had a bunch of blood tests, sleep tests, bought a CPAP machine, taken lots of vitamins, tried exercising. Believe me, if I'm desperate enough to try exercising, I've tried everything, okay? And I only get about 4 or 5 hours of feeling alert and awake in a day, so it has slowed down my productivity substantially. Secondly, and perhaps less sympathetically, I've also run into some financial troubles. I didn't know this, and maybe you don't know it either, but when you buy a mortgage and you agree on a monthly price for that mortgage with your bank, if, say, there's a once-in-a-lifetime unprecedented surge in interest rates, the bank can say, hey, actually, nah, you have to pay twice as much as we agreed on now? The bank can just say that, and you got to do it, or you don't get to live in your house anymore. So you think, okay, sell the house, buy a cheaper house. Easy peasy, done, right? But it turns out people aren't really super into buying houses when interest rates are going crazy, so you'd have to spend a bunch of money to sell it for less than you paid for it. Very cool economy we got here. I don't say any of this to make you feel sorry for me. You should, in no circumstance, feel sorry for me. You don't owe me anything. I make jokes about fart puppets on YouTube. I say this because I want you to understand what it took for me to finally take the drastic step I'm about to take now. I have launched a Patreon for this channel. Didn't want to. I feel weird about it because my other channel, once again, can't remember what its name is, already has one that does well. I don't know how this will be received in my community, and to be honest, I'm a little scared. But this is a horror channel, so let's be scared. That's what we're here for, right? Patrons will get access to new videos a week early. In fact, if you subscribe right now, you can go watch my video on Midnight Meat Train. Here's a clip to prove it. You're probably looking for me to do some sort of thoughtful analysis on the Midnight Meat Train, to ask questions like, what does it tell us about Midnight Meat Society? But I would not insult this movie by implying it has any deeper meaning than, hey, look at this up train. Told ya! And wearing the same clothes because they filmed them at the same time. So this isn't a trick. It is a video. It's there. And I do talk about Midnight Meat Train. We got all sorts of rewards at different tiers. At $15 a month, I'll draw you a little picture, put it at the credits. If I already did one for you in my other channel, name's on the tip of my tongue, you can use this to get another one if you want. I don't give a shit. Good news for those of you who don't want to subscribe to my Patreon, though. This does mean I'm going to have to be more consistent with uploads on this channel. So everybody wins. Hopefully I win the most. I could use a win. I had no idea you was dealing with that stuff, Mildo. I'll tell you what. If it'll help, I'll set up a Cameo account and people can get personalized messages from me. Babadook, star of the channel. No, don't say that, because if you say that, I have to do it. I have to set up a Cameo for the cartoon character I thought of when I was high on marijuana edibles. No, it's no trouble, really. I don't mind. Bobby, don't do this. Don't do this to me. Why don't we let the audience decide? Also, I have t-shirts over at ThoughtSlimeShop.com. Don't know why the website is called that. Thank you for your continued support over my absence. I'm back now. Scaredy Cats Part 5, Mildred Lives. Go ahead, slash that like button, and subscribe and all the other stuff. Why don't you watch another video?